Can you please put the link for Facebook on chat? I can share it to my group. No, I meant the Facebook link. Many people don't have the Zoom app installed.
Are we streaming into Facebook?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, I was just, wait, I'm sorry, I'm confused. I was going to share the link to Facebook so that people who are in Facebook could join us here. Did you want to?
You can go ahead and stream it on Facebook as well.
That's fine. Deborah, I can pick it up from the Climate Healers Facebook page.
Oh, so I don't have an option to live stream into Facebook. So you might need to make me a co-host first if you want, or unless, are you already streaming into Facebook? I guess that's the question.
I thought I made you a co-host. It didn't get through.
I'm not seeing that.
Oh, I am a co-host, but it still doesn't give me the option.
Oh,
I don't see an option.
that's strange.
Do you
I don't
see
see
it,
an option either.
Susanna Benjamin? It might need to be changed in your Zoom settings.
Oh, okay. Okay, now I do have, it does say live on Facebook.
It does. Okay, then maybe we're already there. So I'm putting on Facebook the link. You could, did you give this a title, Sailesh, Exploring Systemic Racism?
I call it Racial Justice and the 7 Core Shifts.
Racial Justice in the 7 Core Shifts, okay.
Should I try Live Producer?
I don't know what that is.
Okay, I'll say dismiss.
Oh, sure. Why not?
Yeah, I don't see the link on the Facebook page yet.
Hold on, it says, okay, go live. Add a title, okay. This is the first time I'm doing it, so.
It's one small step for Shailesh, a giant leap for the vegan kind. I see the link for the Zoom meeting on Facebook, so I can share that.
Does it look like, so all the other streaming times have been, oh, there we go. Looks like it worked.
Okay, I see it now. Thanks. Go ahead, Dr. Shailesh.
Okay, good. Good. It's still saying setting up your meeting for Facebook Live on Zoom.
There's a little bit of a delay, but you're probably live on Facebook right now. Like Simic, you think you still have time.
Okay. So far, so good. So the way I was looking at it is that everything that we have on the left-hand side of this, these 7 core shifts, is what is institutionalized today in the way we govern ourselves, right? So speciesism is institutionalized. People are deliberately, our institutions are deliberately killing animals and we think it is normal. So they just authorize the killing of bears, the killing of predators, wolves. The Bureau of Land Management routinely uses helicopters to go kill animals. So that's institutionalized. The same with colonialism, is institutionalized. You know, we just go and grab forests from people. We grab, I mean, that used to be space where indigenous people are living, but we just go take it from them routinely. So it is, and we consider that to be normal, right? So, and the same way racism is also institutionalized. You know, our police are racist. I mean, the institution is racist. I mean, but we are pretending to have equality, right? So everything on the right-hand side is what we are pretending today that we are doing. Whereas what we are doing, what we are actually institutionalized is what's on the left. So diseases for human beings, that's institutionalized. You know, I mean, we deliberately feed people bad food, knowing fully well they're going to get sick. And we divide people up according to colors and races and nations. I mean, national boundaries, that's how we divide ourselves up. So that is institutionalized. And we consider that to be normal, right? And so the same way destruction of the planet and pollution of the planet is institutionalized. You know, it is there. I mean, we expect our bulldozers to go and do things to the earth, you know, to kill things off, to destroy things. We expect our industries to go and pour pollution out into the environment, into the air. It's going up in smoke, and we can see it. So these things are all built into the system. Death and cruelty to animals is institutionalized. So we deliberately put animals in cages. We put them in, and then we stick probes into them and measure something or the other. So we think that is normal. Our scientists are doing that routinely every day. And we are killing them in slaughterhouses. So all these things are there. So if you look at the culture of consumption, I mean, we expect ads to be there everywhere, right? We expect these ads. We see ads in videos. We see ads in our movies. So the culture of consumption is part of our institutions. And in the same way, the mindset of scarcity is institutionalized. We are made to think that everything is scarce. It is the way we frame everything. If it is not scarce, there is no value to it. So the price is zero, right? So we have to make things scarce in order to get any value out of it. So we have created institutions that do everything on the left-hand side here, right? So whereas, I mean, these things on top, that's the stories we tell. Though I would say normalized violence is also institutionalized. So we think of ourselves as the top predator species. We are the top predators, and we are the top of the food chain. And we are now figuring out that if we continue to want to be on the top of the food chain, you know, the lion of lions, then the planet is going to die. Right? So, so that's what I thought we could talk about and see. What we are trying to do is to institutionalize everything on the right-hand side of this. So that's what our vision is for the vegan world. And from the story of Homo sapiens, we should tell the story of Homo ahimsa. And from a predator species, we should tell the story of the caretaker species, right? So how do we create institutions around these things? When we say radical equality, I mean that not just we should say it, but people of color should feel it. They should feel that they're being treated equally, right, in the new model. So I thought we could discuss around this because it becomes something that's actionable within our community.
I think that the phrase that you use to speak with children about veganism, where you say, would you ever deliberately hurt an innocent animal unnecessarily, can be applied to the, I'm obviously we should be thinking about that in terms of humans too. And this is the perfect, I think you could say that in this situation and it would perfectly apply as well, saying, would you ever deliberately cause suffering unnecessarily to another human? I think
As a lead-in.
yeah, as a lead into that conversation.
Yeah.
I don't know, just a thought.
I mean, I'm really hopeful, not hopeful, I'd say. I'm really struck by the fact that the conversations that are happening today are so genuine. It feels like there's something different going on right now, you know, when people are going out there protesting. And I feel the mainstream community is now beginning to see it, really see what our Black brothers and sisters have been telling us all along, that they deliberately come and beat us up. They come and choke us. And we all thought, they're just saying it. They may not be true, right? May not be entirely true. But now we see it. We see it in example after example, right? And everyone seems to be waking up to the fact that this is real. This has been going on all along. And now we are shining the light on it because we have cameras everywhere, and we have people are able to take their cell phones out and just take a video of this happening as it's happening, even though it's been happening all along, right? And the same with what we do to women. People in power have been abusing women all along, right? Men in power. And it's only now we are beginning to wake up and say, it is true, it is institutionalized.
I might have a different perspective. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Jackie.
I was just going to say that I guess from our perspective of being in this awareness already, I just feel like we have an obligation as the imaginal selves that kind of see all the interconnectedness to really be compassionate, because what's happening is exponential awareness. Like people are not even having the opportunity to process. It's like awareness upon awareness, and it's like ego fracture after ego fracture, and people are experiencing shift after shift after shift, and it's a lot for people to process at the same time, especially when each one of these social injustices, when we become aware of them, it really makes you question your identity. It makes you question your trusting your own intuition. It's humbling, it's shameful. Like there's all of these, and then every time we're looking month to month, it's like this awareness is being thrusted on people. So I think we just have to be cognizant of that, aware of that, compassionate of that, and continue with this evolution that's going on with humanity, this transformation. And I think when we embody the 7 core shifts and we actualize that in the world, and we can be compassionately embracing to humanity that are going through exponential growth really, really quickly. And a lot of them are going to fall behind. They're not going to be able to keep up. And I think we just need to be aware of that and embody the 7 core shifts. And I think that that's been the best way that I've been able to get through this and navigate this, is to really not even intellectualize it, but really truly embody it and feel it, that I have gone through this transition of the 7 core shifts, and we are this evolution in humanity. We are this, and we are ushering others in. And it's painful. It's growing pains hurt. So just to have maybe that mindset and that narrative, that story of who we are and what we're supposed to do. Thank you. With that, I'm complete.
Jyoti?
Oh, thanks. Great points, Jackie. I was going to respond to the comment Dr. Shalashut you made. I think we knew about this violence. My perspective is that everybody knows about this violence. It's just like when you have a mass shooting happens, everybody gets concerned about this gun shooting at that point in time. And then the news cycle takes its course and it just fades out and the cycle continues. So now, since we have having protests every day and we have a pivotal moment of people seeing these video pictures, this video evidence of like full 8-9 minutes, whatever, this graphic video, and it's like happening every week, and we have a video coming out every week of police brutality, injustice. So the news cycle is kind of is sucked into this, covering this. So the story is not dying down. And my worry is that we hope that there's lasting changes to this, because we have so much attention competition right now, and so much sensory overload, and we have COVID going on, we have racial injustice, we have riots, we have economy. So and people are looking for closure, people are looking for leadership, and I guess my worry is that we need to have a lasting change come out of this, rather than we moved our attention to, let's say, if a new, God forbid, a hurricane comes in or something else which captures our attention, and our attention shifts over.
I agree. And, I think that's one of the things I get concerned about every time that we have something so significant come and really, bring people together, raise the awareness, bring people together who want to command change. Then the next big thing happens, everything shifts there and it just gets dropped and swept back under the rug. And so I have that same hope as you're expressing there. And, and I do have, I kind of like have a split thing going on in my head, because I see this great hope and all of these things that are happening as people are coming together and marching together. And, some of the police are marching with the protesters, and there are a lot of incredible things happening. And then I saw, did anybody see yesterday? It was about somewhere between 9 and 10 a.m. Central Time. The president came out and did a just impromptu conference that broke into the programming. I was there with my dad. He was watching one of his programs and it broke in. Nobody saw that? I've been looking for it online because I wanted to post it with some comments. It totally just imploded my brain all at the same time. It's, it was about, the president wanted to come out and say what a great thing this was, that the job market was increasing. We had all these new jobs. And then of course he transitioned into talking about the riots, and he talked about what a great job he did by sending in the National Guard to Minneapolis and one other place where he sent, and how they just went in really quick and they dominated and they nipped it in the bud and problem solved. And if any of you other states out there want your problem solved, we'll bring in the National Guard. And I was just like, and and then the news person cut in and said, well, that was totally unscripted, from the president. It's like, yeah, but holy crap. This like really? So I hope that this gets out to people, that we have got to vote. We have got to really pay attention to who's in control in our leadership in this country and in every country around the world, because at the same time, all 50 states have marches going on. They have people marching together, and all of these countries around the world have joined in on this march. And I have to say, when I saw that all these other countries were coming together also in support, and also to call out systemic racism in their own countries, I mean, I just felt so hopeful and happy, and big smile, yay, that all of this is happening and people are coming together. And then when that cut in, that just, I guess it just says, okay, there's still a lot of serious work to do because there are a lot of people in power who are supporting this person to stay in power here and supporting the system to not change. So, you know, anybody has any insights, I guess, around how to bring that awareness to more people, how to get that to change at that leadership level. I don't know what, you know, if there's anything to share or to talk about around that, but it totally blew my mind. And I guess I shouldn't be surprised, right? I shouldn't be surprised, but I want to think that things are changing. And I want to think that people are awake enough and enough people are awake enough. And hopefully that's maybe tipping the scales here. And enough people can be awake enough to have their voices heard, to put pressure on the leadership to make the changes that will infiltrate the system. And I love, Sailesh, what you're sharing about, you know, make a new system and let's all just step into the new system. And I'm also aware that the system that is in so many ways dominating and in control has got to change too.
Julie, you had something?
Yeah, I wanted to say something. Thank you. I think that, I mean, it's horrible to say that I mean, everything that's happened in the last couple of months has just been completely dystopian all over the world, of course, especially with the pandemic. And I do think that this brutal murder, that's really what it was, of George Floyd, riding on the coattails, as it were, on this national crisis. And let's not forget the health crisis and the economic crisis that is hurting people of color the most, you know, I mean, disproportionately, as is every other injustice, you know. It's hurting people of color. And I think that in a way that is, with the fact that this was videoed, now we can say this is what's going on. This is the truth. It's happening in real time. We're watching these things in real time. You know, it was like, I can't help but thinking of the Twin Towers when they fell and how people watched it over and over. It was like, this can't be happening, yet it's happening, but it can't be happening because it thrusts you, whether you're ready for it or not, into a whole new reality. And thankfully, this was videotaped. I mean, of course, we would rather this had never happened, but it did happen. So I think that we can't forget, I spend a lot of time doing animal rights activism. And what I find is interesting now in the community, and part of the community of animal rights activists, is that there's some people who want to bring it back to the animals. Yes, you see it's the animals, but others who are really saying loud and clear that how can we expect any type of animal liberation when we have human beings who are still in shackles? You know, whether they are real or whether they're virtual, we must join together and really work on human liberation. It won't happen the other way. We want it to, and we all, I think, believe that if there weren't speciesism, right, there couldn't be racism. This is what it goes down to, of course. I mean, if you're not going to judge another individual because that individual happens to have fur or feathers or a beak, you know, instead of having skin and a mouth and walking on two legs, if you're not going to judge that person, or at least have a discriminatory in terms of the value of life of that person, of course you're not going to do it with people of your own species who just happen to have a different, either a different culture or a different, you know, race, a different color of the skin. So I think it's really, really important also to really firmly integrate this idea of systemic racism, systemic, you know, colonialism, ableism and everything. But really at this point, I think it's really important not to forget that Black Lives Matter. Really, we have to be able to say that and not integrate it with everything else, but say Black Lives Matter. There we go.
Absolutely.
Wait,
Jyoti asked a question on chat.
Yes, I was trying to determine when would we reach the tipping point, but I want to respond to Julie, and I've been struggling with this point myself as to how we can bring the speciesism along with racism. And I think we need to do both, because one case in point, one perspective is the slaughterhouse workers. So majority, now the slaughterhouse workers are forced to work. Majority of them are people of low socioeconomic status, people of color, and they are getting coronavirus over there. As we know, it's rampant. They're coming back and bringing it to the community. So those both things are tied together. And we have to take into account the overall, like yesterday, Melvin was saying that, he was quoting Dr. Greger, that we need to look at it as an overall full system, not the elephant's trunk or elephant's feet or something like that. And so these all, like Dr. Shelish was saying, these all things are connected. So, I was mentioning yesterday about Mr. Dick Gregory, who had the same opinion, is that, all of these injustices are connected. And I go to a protest, like I have a protest coming up in an hour or so, and I will wear my vegan shirt, and I have a sign which says "Justice for George Floyd," because I think that as intersectional, we need to support, we need to be allies to other injustices, and at the same time, we need to also raise voice that this is the injustice I'm caring about. Over.
Absolutely. I mean, they are all interconnected, and it's good at every time, whenever we have a chance to talk about these isms, right? The idea of discriminating against any other individual arbitrarily. That's all an ism is, really. And so be able to bring that up, in every occasion that we have. I'm with you and I'm bored.
Yeah, with respect to the tipping point question, I think there is no going back. So the tipping point has already happened. There is no going back to the old way. Even like in Arizona, they're trying to reopen the economy and bring it back to where it was. But people are falling sick at a faster rate than ever before. And so people are being forced to shut down, whether the governor wants it or not. Like Kimaya's mother's casino have 15 employees now have coronavirus because they just willy-nilly opened it, and they're forcing the employees to work, because if they don't work, they're not going to get any unemployment benefits. But if people are falling sick, they're not going to come to work.
I must say, living in Europe and living in a country where we do have unemployment insurance and where people are relatively well taken care of, there's holes in the system, as there are everywhere. And also in terms of health insurance, that people are covered, we're covered. We just you don't have to worry about if you're going to be able to, if you have it or not, if you're going to get all of that. I find that what's going on in the United States, it's just, I really believe that this pandemic has kind of touched the sore spot of every country that it's in. What is that? What are the sore spots in this particular country? I live in France, and it's really touched the sore spot in France. I spend half the year in India, and I was there actually and was repatriated from India to come back to France. And what I saw there was just phenomenal, but it's not phenomenal because this is the sore spots in India, and the sore spots in the United States. All it has done is exacerbated the craziness. I mean, the way these societies run, you just don't understand. How can they run like this? I mean, it's just functioning, of course, for the 1%. We all know that. We don't have, but we have to get beyond that, and we have to start really trying to educate people on how the system does such a mind job on people, where they really believe the system is working for them, when it's not. They are working for the few, but it's not, They're always getting the short end of the stick, and almost everybody. So I must say that, seeing what's going on in the United States and just people having to work, governors deciding that they're not going to give any type of insurance, unemployment insurance to people if their, slaughterhouse decides to open up. I mean, how cruel can you be? It's just cruel. It's disregard for all life, all life.
And on top of that, when they said that the slaughterhouses are essential businesses and that the employees that they have to open up and the employees have to go back to work, they also, in that same executive order that was signed, gave, what do you call it? Basically, what is that word? Sorry, I will say immunity, but that's not the right word. But basically,
impunity.
I'm sorry, what is it?
Impunity.
Oh, yeah, for the employers, so that they give protection to the employers so that they can't be sued by their employees. That's
okay. 3 hands up. Nancy Posnack, please.
Hi, I've been listening to most of everything. I've still had to get some things done, but I'm all here now. And I don't know if this is a repeat, but you were mentioning about what we all know as vegans, this false sense of superiority, and how the forces of oppression, being woven into the DNA of business. And I was just thinking, like, yeah, who's the superior one now? This little virus has caused, is definitely at the top of our food, above us on the food chain. This is eating us up alive, and we have to hide away from it. And I wonder if the virus could say anything, if it would be laughing at us, and it's completely our own doing. It's self-imposed. Some people talk about karma and how nature's getting us back, but I think no, it's just completely self-imposed. And anyway, yeah, and the viciousness and the cruelty of these industries has really come forward. But I think things are going to get back to what's normal, so to speak. But I don't know if that's possible, because like you're saying that you've seen cases rise up again in Arizona. And yeah, okay, that's all. Thank you. I'm gonna lower my hand.
Jackie, you have your hand up.
Hi, I just wanted to mention that in conversations like this, I always bring up that, and it's hard to say, but when we talk about people that want to focus on the animals, about speciesism, racism is speciesism. I mean, we have to call it for what it is. Those that are privileged see others as not human, as not on their caliber, as less than. And we are factory farmed. And who are we factory farming? We're separating humanity in that species kind of mentality. And if we can bring that awareness to our brothers and sisters in this fight with us that see that so obviously with the animals, I think that would resonate with them if they could truly see through our eyes and say, we are the ones that are in the zoos. We're the ones that are being, have to work in the heat, and carry people on our backs. Like, that's us. And that's why we are so empathic for the animals. And that's why we make this choice, because we've made the connection, because we literally have been treated the same way. We know how they feel. It's a lived experience for us. So I think if we can bring that awareness, I think it would be very helpful.
Thank you, Jackie. Jyoti, you had your hand up?
No, I lowered it down.
Okay. Preeti, you're next. You're on mute. So.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. So I was thinking that out of the 7 core shifts, for the point of veganism, we have the first step is quite simple. It's a baby step that everyone, irrespective of where they are in their life right now, can take, which is in the next meal, ensure that it is plant-based and, if possible, organic, if possible, whole foods. So can we come up with that as such a simple first step for racism as well? because people in position can do different things. People who are managing a startup or a lab can do different things. A person who's managing a house can do different things. So if if I feel helpless about certain things happening in India, it won't help unless I know that step which I can take today. So maybe we can jot down a few points of what are the simplest things that we can take, and then as we move up to different take up different responsibilities, maybe we can do bigger things. But yeah, so that is what I wanted to tell.
That's a great point, Preeti. Do you have any suggestions as what we could be doing first?
Yeah, let me just frame a few things in my mind. I think the first thing that I can, I'm thinking of in my day-to-day activities, if I'm going out to play, am I discriminating there? If I am at my workplace in a lab, how am I seeing my colleagues, irrespective of which place they are from in India? And so I'm thinking of all those lines. I have not, I don't have in concrete words that step, but maybe as I get it, I will communicate.
Wonderful, thank you. It's a very good point you make, because we talk about veganism. Veganism is about the animals and nature, whereas radical equality is about how we treat each other as human beings within the human family. And racism is within the human family. It's the discrimination that happens within the human family. So it's how do we operationalize radical equality in our daily lives is what you're asking for.
I think when I see people around me equal and people see that, then whatever decision I take up and whatever to whomever I vote will reflect that. So this is also probably a bottoms up moment rather than choosing a leader who is. Even if we choose a leader who doesn't discriminate, he may not have people supporting him if people don't stand by the ideals that he believes in. So this is also a grassroots movement, and and I think people get this from a very young age, from a very, very young age. So I remember in my 5th standard, many years back, my dance teacher didn't take me up for a dance because the other girls were had a brighter skin. And so this is in India. So in India, among the different shades of gray, there is a huge discrimination. So it affected my confidence at that stage, at the age of 10. So that is when children pick it up. So so this is, that's what I think. So at least the next generation, their confidence should not be affected by the way we treat kids during different activities in which they take part.
Does India still have Fair and Lovely? Do they still sell Fair and Lovely and advertise it as such?
Yes. The advertisements have reduced drastically, but it is still on the store, and it is still very much on the store, and the Fair and Lovely has been replaced by Skin Lightening and Skin Brightening and other names. The advertisements, but a few years back, up till I think 2-3 years back, the mainstream actors in the Bollywood industry had this Fair and Handsome. So it suddenly moved from the victims are now even males in India. So from Fair and Lovely, it moved to Fair and Handsome, and that had a lot of people attacking the ad. So people want to, at least the good news is people want to believe that they are not discriminatory, but it's still on the stores. Those products are there, and they are very much accessible, and it's very subtle. So so the good news is people know that it's bad. I think that's good news. Again, speciesism, racism is, everybody now knows it's bad. I don't think the same is for speciesism. People might still defend it for some reason. Yeah. So in India, it's much better now when compared to my childhood. But yeah, I should ask a kid in school. Now I've grown up, so I don't care what people tell or anything. So, but how are children treated, that I'm yet to know. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, when I was growing up, it was very out in the open. It was open discrimination against people of darker skin color. So it's the same disease everywhere, right? It's the same systemic discrimination everywhere. It happens.
I think
Yes,
this, but
yes,
I think sorry. Yeah, just one more point if I would like to add before my battery dies down. There's no power here, so I might just move out of the meeting. Uh, Dr. Sailesh, I wanted to ask, among the 7 core shifts, if we had to form, which one people are most into fighting? Which institutional problem is, do we have maximum support? And if we can rate it, I don't, so all 7 are needed for the sustainable vegan world, but probably we are better off at something and the others will come at a later, maybe not as part of this meeting, but as part of some other discussion. We can also quantitatively see where we are again in our work in all of this, like in speciesism, in veganism, and economics and other factors. Yeah.
Yeah. So the way I've been framing it is that all of these are mixed in, intricately connected to each other. So just as Buckminster Fuller said, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. So I've taken that to heart, and I'm saying we need to create this new game in which we are building the new model, okay? And create the game in such a way that you can play that game while you're playing the current game, because we are playing games. All these things are part of a game we are playing. So we're playing a game which has been set up for us, which our ancestors gave it to us. So we never really asked for this game. But we need to now build a new game that we can play in parallel with the current game, so that eventually all of us will say we like the new game better. Okay? And then abandon the old game. So this becomes a way of transitioning from the old game to the new game, but the new game is started from scratch. It's a little like, if I were to design a Pentium, and I had been, working with the 486, I don't start with the 486 and start tweaking things. I just start the Pentium project separately, right? But then the same people who are working on 486 will also work on the Pentium. I'm using my electronic, so you can see my background. Anyway, I don't know if that's easy for you all to understand. Okay. Julie, you had your hand up.
I just wanted to respond to something that Priti had said about, that everybody knows, most people know now that racism is bad, right? But most people, I think, don't even know what speciesism is all about. I mean, we think people do, or they know, but most people have no idea. even if you say, well, it's got species and it has isms, so you know, but most people are completely in the dark as to what it means, you know, and because they always get into, oh, you think that we all should have equal rights, that an animal is worth the same as a human, that a, you know, that a fly is, I had a person who kind of tormented me the other day because I just told her I didn't participate in, I didn't wear silk. I talked about silk, right? And I just said that since I don't think that, that we don't need to kill these bombyx, you know, worms in order to survive, I don't see any reason why we should be doing this. And she just, it became, you know, I don't step on ants when I go outside, so I'm an anti-species, this type of thing. It became a very, very strange Twilight Zone type of conversation. So I think that it's true that we must educate people. You know, it's part of it. It's telling people what it's about. But I think that what Priti said is just excellent, because it's nice to have guidelines. It's nice to have, like, what can I do today? Very practical solutions. I think a lot of people, even if we can just share practical solutions, but most of us, I think, are already incorporating the 7 core shifts in our own lives. And maybe it will help us to, I don't know, to even just to note it down so that we can help other people make the shift, you know, already exemplify the shift. I think that's probably the most important thing. I think Deborah said that, or maybe it was Jackie, but to exemplify these shifts and then help people, guide people, you know, that's it.
Nancy, you had your hand up.
Yes, that becomes a nitpicky problem when people say, well, what about ants and bacteria? And mostly that's a defense. But one of the things that I've said to that is that, yeah, there is death and destruction in being alive. That's true. That just the most beginning existence that we might be able to come up with, there's still going to be death and destruction. And the point is to, you know, avoid intentional and avoidable harm. And, you know, it purposely commodifying sentient beings and purposely doing things that cause harm that can be avoided. And it's a matter of using our discrimination or discernment to, you know, and intelligence to realize, you know, what's avoidable and what's not. So I like to focus on the bigger picture of things and say, you know, if you want to avoid stepping on ants, I certainly don't go out of my way. It's not like we go out of our way to, you know, go on a seek and destroy mission for insects and things like that. But yet we are out on a seek and destroy mission for, you know, things like food animals and other animals used in, yeah, it's not about perfection, right? And so that's why the definition was smart when people put that definition, this is as far as possible and practicable or practical, to do that, you know. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Deborah?
Yeah, I think, thank you all. And I think we need to also, you know, the issue that is really heightened right now is the racial injustice. And I think that we cannot do enough to tie back to people how that is just, you know, how that is a factor in this whole bigger picture, and keep educating and bringing back. One of my friends who is a Black woman who I've talked to about veganism, and she's absolutely can't go there right now. I love her and we're good friends. And she's just, you know, like, don't ask me to eat anything that's out of the mainstream right now. I can't go there, right? We've had that conversation before. But interestingly, you know, with everything that's been going on now, I'm looking at this meme she texted me yesterday, is a chart of Donald Trump's main supporters who have contributed the most money to his campaign. And I don't know if you're interested in getting into, you know, the administration and politics and that, but just given what, you know, what I shared earlier about, you know, what he said in response to sending in the National Guard and taking care of the problem of the protesters and nipping this in the bud, and what he has just, you know, the things that come out of his mouth, and his main supporters that seem to be interested in perpetuating the systems as they are right now. But in looking at this chart, they're all food, all the fast foods and the food systems, and everyone who's related to that industry, who has an interest, a vested interest in keeping things the way they are, and keeping, you know, the money concentrated here, the workers down here, all of the power and control here, and all of the, you know, don't have a choice and got to do what you got to do and stay at low pay, and it's control, and it's racist, and it's you know, socioeconomic injustice, and it's animal abuse, and it's all of it in the same frame. And it's all got to keep the power and control here, and got to keep this down and under control, and marching to the beat. And as somebody mentioned earlier, the for-profit incarceration of these people, who then can become slave labor for, you know, legally slave labor for the bigger system. It's all tied together. And I think, you know, one of the reasons I bring this up is because I did have one of my Facebook friends say, you know, hey, right now the issue is about racial injustice and Black lives and the brutality, police brutality of Black people. And yes, it is. And it's kind of like the healthcare of the body. You know, when you go to a doctor and, you know, you've got a pain over here that might be related to the pain up in your shoulder, but they only want to look here and they don't want to look at anything else. They got to send you to a different specialist. It's all one body. And this that we're talking about is all one body. And yeah, we want to focus here, but it's got to be a doorway to addressing the bigger system, or else this can't change on its own. So I think it's important for us to keep tying all of this together.
Thank you. Julie, you had a response to
And,
that?
you know, I mean, same with where the factory farms, CAFOs, I can keep talking, but I just wanted to let other people have a chance.
No, I just wanted to say I totally agree. I'm cheering you on. Yeah.
Yeah, because like, you know, where our CAFOs are, and our factory farms and our slaughterhouses and all of that stuff, not only who they employ or who they seek to employ, but also where they're located and who's impacted by the environmental effects of that. And, you know, and how it keeps the control and the economic and everything. It's all one system.
Yeah, and I think we spoke about this here well, not here today, but in a Climate Healers discussion about the fact that Justin Trudeau a number of years ago gave the equivalent of a Canadian green card to Syrians who were fleeing war and whose entire villages had been, you know, razed and many of their family members. But these people, he gave them green cards if they would work in the slaughterhouses. You know, this is the type of system that it's all over the place. Yeah. So it's just all about exploiting people, exploiting resources, exploitation, extracting. We call it extractivism, of course, but it's taking what you can. And just thinking of the taking, it's not about the giving, of course, it's the taking, and it really has to stop. It has to stop.
And it's like it just perpetuates this pulsation of this trauma that is like, you know, if you're a energy kind of person at all, you know, there is a vibe of trauma that is just pulsating around the entire globe that keeps us in that energetic vibe of tied into the trauma vibe. And it's trauma of the animals, trauma of the people, trauma of everything. And it's just, and that's
Caused by
what,
violence. It's the
yeah.
violence. And I think that, Sadesh, when you say that, it just, I always say it. I always say, normalize violence, because it is so normalized that people don't even think of it as being violent anymore. Animals are not thought of as being victims. When we talk about animals, we say they're victims. Most people don't think of them as being victims. But we have this, I mean, it's just, our societies are built on violence. It's, it really takes, I think, an act of faith, and to be in groups like this and to know people, to know that this is not normal, that this has been thrust upon us, and people are, like drowning people. They're trying to keep their heads afloat. And a lot of people's reactions that can be very violent, I think, are because they are trying to keep afloat in a system that keeps on pushing them down and giving them just enough air to breathe, just enough, but always with that idea that any moment they might just poke their heads back down, So
hard to thrive when you're in survival mode.
Absolutely.
Survival mode puts you into that, defensive and self-preservation. And it's, that's what I love about when Silas says, okay, we've got to have a new system and opt into a new system. Let's create a system where we can breathe and where we're not fighting against what do I need to do to survive today? And how can I defend myself and protect myself and survive, as opposed to what's really needed to be able to breathe and to breathe fully and freely and know that I'm going to be okay. Not have to worry about if I walk out of my house today, am I going to, get pulled over for no reason and it's going to turn into a deadly situation just because of the color of my skin. And I don't have that skin color, but, there was this kind of a similar thing about being a woman and leaving your house. Okay, do I have to be looking over my shoulder at, what could happen here?
So I think this thing with breathing is just really, it made me think of one image, and then I'm going to give the floor over. I'm sorry, but it made me think of this, the image that when you're on an airplane and they say, in case of, a sudden drop in pressure, take the mask and put it over your face. And once you're breathing, you take the mask and you help a child or another person. And so I think that that's what we have to do. We have to breathe. We have to do whatever we can to keep breathing ourselves, because it will allow us to help other people, to give that mask to other people, and to get people to breathe again, yeah.
Jyoti, you had your hand up.
Yes, thanks. Such a great discussion. I wish I could stay longer, but I have to go to a protest. A couple of points. I think we do have, as a vegan movement, we do have a messaging challenge or an opportunity. Like we were going to Fair and Lovely. All the marketing media just really gets their messaging very good. And I think we as vegans need to improve. It's a huge opportunity because our message is complicated. I totally agree. Otherwise, I would not be spending so much time with the group. I totally agree with the core principle of it. But marketing, with the current attention span and so many challenges, we need to refine our marketing to maybe narrow down to what Preeti was saying, is that what's our first priority? I mean, these 7 steps are core. We need to do all of them, but to communicate to a guy on the street or at the protest, I start this conversation. So, and I'm going to leave it at there. So really, I'm sorry I have to run, but I'll catch or review the replay. So I really appreciate the leadership of Dr. Shailesh and all the other folks involved in it. Namaste. Bye.
Thank you for going to the protest. Those are very important too, to get out to do. So thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Yeah, thank you for bringing up marketing and how we message this, because a former marketing expert from Unilever has joined us. So, and she's amazing. So I mean, she used to sell products for Unilever, right? And now she's trying to.
Where? I'm sorry.
Sorry.
What? I'm sorry. Where is she from?
She's from Boston, I think, but she used to work for Unilever.
Unilever. Okay.
Which is really the West Point of marketing. Actually, they do a really good job of selling things to people, and so she's trying to atone for her past sins. That's the way she puts it. And she's going to help us with the marketing of Vegan World 2026. You'll see where it goes.
Yeah. Languaging, positioning. There's a question on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a good time to bring that in? Okay, so it's from Marky Mark says, thank you, Climate Healers, for having this conversation. Can we contact the farmers that have been raising livestock and that have now had to confront the issue of euthanizing them and work with them to convert their farms to vegetable, only so that they can keep their farms without going bankrupt and without resorting to killing the animals? We must guide and help them so that they cannot lose their livelihood and learn to make money in a humane way. And this is a very appropriate question for this group because I know that that is one of the focuses here. So,
yeah, that's I mean, that's a very important transformation that we have been talking about. And how do we get the resources we need to give to farmers so they can to kickstart them? You know, it's not that they really need help forever, but they need help for the transformation. So we are trying to get government support for it. Whoever has the money should be supporting that, because what the coronavirus has done is it has mercilessly gone after every such fissure in our society and exposed it. Right? I mean, people who don't want to see animals dying, but they are contributing to it, are now forced to see it. In fact, I was at a meeting of the Manhattan Borough President, Gail Brewer, and she was talking about people coming to food banks and refusing to take chicken home, even though they eat chicken, because they didn't want to see the whole chicken. They wanted the chicken breast. And the food bank didn't want to sit there and cut up the chicken into pieces and give it to them, right? They didn't have the volunteers to do that. But they got a donation of whole chickens. So people want to eat it, but they don't want to see that that's what they're eating. Right? And that fissure is being opened up now everywhere. And so it's exposing what's happening here. As more and more people of color are getting sick. So now we see that our healthcare system is also biased. Everything is biased.
mm-hmm. And I, that is one of the gifts of this position that we've been in, is that we do have the opportunity to face our food and really see where it comes from. So much about our food industry has been exposed and really, put in our faces about, okay, this is what's behind the scenes that you are choosing when you make your purchases for food. Yeah, and to go back to the question about helping is, I want to mention Renee and the Rancher Advocacy Program. There is a thing called Rancher Advocacy Program, and Renee King Sonnen is the spokesperson for that. It's a nonprofit, and she's a part of this group as well. She's been on the Dr. Rouse Summits, and she's also planning a summit of her own that's going to be coming soon that is going to pull people together and highlight some of the farmers that are being helped under this program to transition their farms from animals to vegetables, or from into sanctuaries, or other ways that are giving the land back to for the animals and helping them to get out of the industry that they're in, that they're recognizing like, oh my gosh, I just don't want to do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. And so that's one resource. And I know that there's way more need than what they can fill. There are others also, and I know there's one of the groups, AFA, is it, they're hiring a lobbyist to advocate that the government subsidies be used to help farmers transition instead of to just shore them up and continue in the same line of work when it is, I think, becoming less and less sustainable for farmers as more people are seeing what is behind their food choices and opting out. And also as people, you know, I think when that came up with the slaughterhouse workers being called essential and forced to go back to work, I mean, I was hearing people who are not vegan saying, wait a minute, I don't want to put somebody's life at risk so I can have a hamburger. I can wait. I don't need a hamburger right now. You know, so it's like more and more people waking up and saying, oh, this isn't right. And it is having an impact on the farmers. I think it's also going to have a lasting, I hope it's going to have a lasting impact on, you know, waking people up and impacting their choices from this point forward. So there is that need for transition, and hopefully these efforts will get more and more support so that they can help more and more of the farmers to transition permanently.
Yeah, the Agriculture Fairness Alliance is asking for a farm transition administration as part of a multi-billion-dollar project helping farmers transition. I think we really need an entire transition administration, not just farm. It's a transition administration from an extractivist economy to a contributionist economy where human beings are routinely contributing to life on the planet. You know, I think globally we need a transition administration that would funnel resources from tax dollars or whatever, you know, to bringing back forests. I mean, doing the things they need to do. Because unless we become a species that's contributing to life routinely, we're all going to die. You know, it's as simple as that. Not only are the animals going to die, we are going to die too. So it is that, you know, we need a transition administration, and we need some politicians who can see that. We need a transition administration.
I love the way you phrase that, Silas, because, you know, I mean, just think of in terms of just general fulfillment in life and hope, and how we function as human beings and how much more we contribute when we know that we are making a difference and we have some value and some purpose, and, you know, that we're contributing rather than a burden. And
Anita, your hand is up. You're next.
Yes, having some technical issues, a little hard to hear and no video today, but anyway, I just was thinking, I was listening to a podcast with, speaking with Ibram X. Kendi, who wrote How Not to Be a Racist, and thinking about how he was talking about, and I hadn't really thought about it this way, but it's not enough to be, you know, I'm not a racist. Well, so, but are you anti-racist? It's like, I'm not a racist, but, you know, I'm just kind of here neutral. Like, I'm not one of those bad guys. And it reminded me actually of what you have said about when you ask, well, would you hurt an innocent animal? Oh, no, I'm not one of those bad guys. But it's not enough to just not be one of those bad guys, quote unquote, you know. It's making that transition. And I know for myself too, just from, yeah, I know, to wait a second, you know, this has really got to change and I have to be a part of that. And so what prevents people from that? It's that whole, you know, going back and forth between hope and fear. And I saw such a clear incident of that with speaking with my oldest son who lives in Denver just this past weekend, and he was talking about moving to Germany, that maybe he and his wife were going to move to Germany because this country was just getting too hot. You know, I mean, well, I should say metaphorically speaking, although literally too, but and they work in the tech field, so they could do that if they wanted. But then he texted me that he had completely like changed his mind because he went to a Black Lives Matter protest, and it suddenly became real to him, and suddenly he wanted to be part of the solution. And it was just amazing to see that. And then he sent me a little cartoon that also made reference to a rainforest, and it was kind of about you know, well, if you change your mind, does that just make you I forget what the word was, some derogatory term, but no, it makes you a person who's wants to change and grow. And so it just was wonderful to have an example of that. And I continue to think for myself, you know, what do I need to do in my own life to step up?
Yes, Julie.
I just want to reply, to what Anita just said, because I thought it's quite beautiful. It's wonderful. And I think here we have this, I think we all have recognized that there is this big shift that has happened. You know, we were talking about the premise of COVID-19 and then George Floyd's murder online and everything. But I think a lot of people have gone from that non-racist to anti-racist. I think this has really gotten people to say, I have to do something about it. You know, it's not good enough any longer just to say, no, I'm not racist. You know, I do this and I do that. And of course I don't discriminate myself. To actually get out there on the streets, to protest, to write, to do whatever people can do. And I mean, I'm a broken record whenever I have a chance to say something, but I always talk about how important it is for people to become active, whereas activism takes any shape or color or, you know, or song or whisper. Everybody has his or her own way of being active, but that is what's going to make the difference. When we just get, you know, we're vegan, that's wonderful, but when we start actually speaking up for whatever, when we start actually putting ourselves and our bodies and our voices to this message, that's when we really can be hopeful that things will change. And I think that's what's happening. And I think this is what's moving everybody so much, is that we're seeing this massive, very organic. I mean, nobody called for these things to happen. It just happened. Like, it's taken on a life of its own. And it's given people, I think, so many people who never thought they would ever find themselves out on the public square with a sign on their hands. And here they are, feeling embraced by this energy of, yes, we are part of the change. We're not going to be on the sidelines. So it's great, Anita, what you said about how that transformation took place with your son. It's great.
And also, Anita, thank you, and Benjamin and Suzanne, thank you for bringing up that question. You know, would you ever deliberately hurt an innocent being unnecessarily? And we see that illustrated in the case of eating animals, because 100% of the people say, absolutely not, you would never do that. And then they go and mindlessly eat animals, right? So you see that there is this disconnect. And the same thing is happening in racism as well. You know, we think that we would never, of course, we would never discriminate against people of color, but then we probably buy into something, byproduct, or something or the other that we're doing that is indirectly doing it, but we're not aware of it. Just like those people are not aware of the fact that they're hurting animals, or they kind of put it in the back of their mind and don't think about it. So that bringing that to the forefront of our consciousness, and then actively doing it, which is what we do as vegans when we start eating, you know, plant-based foods. We are actualizing what we are saying, right? Consciously. And I think in the same way, we should be doing that with racism. Thank you.
Could I just say one more thing? I was thinking, you know, also that not just changing minds, but changing hearts. And how does that happen? And it happens in relationship, of course, right? We have to know someone. And I know I, for a year, facilitated a prison meditation group in a men's prison. And, you know, it was the same thing of like, well, I never thought prisoners were bad people, but I mean, that didn't mean a lot, right? And then when I went in there and facilitated the group and got to know these people and hear their stories, and we shared so much on a heart level, and it just blew me away. I mean, it just completely changed the way I looked at prisoners or around the whole system, you know. So, and of course we all know that as vegans too, like you said, you know, once you actualize this, or once your eyes are open and your heart is changed, it's just, you're looking at the world in an entirely different way with there's a whole other dimension there.
Right. Thank you, Anita. Benjamin, Suzanne, you had something to say?
I was just going to say, kind of bringing this around to things actionable items we can do right now, in addition to eating the next meal being vegan. I read this morning about there's this website, Reddit. It's a social media website. A lot of information is passed around there, and there's a very big vegan community on there as well. But one of the co-founders resigned his position today for a person of color to take his place. And I thought that was a really interesting way of taking action on this, that I think would be really powerful in mass. It would be unbelievable. And I think it'd be really cool to hear what your thoughts are on that, and if there is.
So I was going to say, not everyone is in the position to be able to do that,
right,
obviously, but it is, you know, we can, in terms of Preeti's idea of, you know, the first step you can take, or one step you can take today, either promoting voices of color or promoting actual people of color, if that is within your power, even if it means stepping down yourself, which I think it will mean stepping down yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I see Shea, forgive me if I pronounced that wrong, welcome to the conversation. The 7 core shifts, I'll put you can find them on climatehealers.org, and they are wonderful. And Shea, yes, nice to meet you, Shea. Shea, oh, is that how you pronounce shea butter? Okay. Yeah, Dr. Rao, I don't know if you'd like to talk about the 7 core shifts a little more, or...
Yeah, the 7 core shifts are the institutional changes, transformations that need to happen for us to get to a vegan world. And so they span everything from how we relate to each other, how we relate to animals. And so, and I'll tell you what they are. It's from speciesism, colonialism, racism, ableism, and patriarchy, to veganism and radical equality. From diseases and divisions for humanity to health and unity for humanity. From destruction and pollution of the planet to remediation and regeneration for the planet. From death and cruelty to animals to love and kindness for animals. From a culture of consumption to a culture of compassion. From a mindset of scarcity to a mindset of abundance. And from a money-driven economy to a service-driven economy. So yeah, Deborah just shared that. And basically we are saying that you need a system that's based on everything on the right-hand side of this for us to reach a sustainable civilization, for us to have a sustainable civilization in which we are contributing to nature as we live. We are contributing to all life. We are making all life thrive as we live. Whereas the current system is designed around everything on the left-hand side. And this is why we just live and the planet dies. Well, thank you for that question, Chair. You can go to climatehealers.org and you will see a survey that pops up. And normally people just X that survey out and then they can then go and browse through the website. But if you click on that survey, it'll take you to a form that you can fill up and you can then join Basecamp, where we are actively working on creating these 7 core shifts.
I have a quick question about that. I just went to Climate Healers and I didn't see that survey pop up, but when I clicked over to Vegan World 2026, it did pop up. Is it supposed to pop up on both?
Oh, it'll pop up on both. Maybe it didn't pop up for you because you already X'd it out.
Well, I've already taken it, so maybe that's why. Okay.
So we are planning to have the same discussion in the afternoon, depending on who's able to join in the afternoon from 3 to 5 o'clock. Because I really need some, get some clarity on this, on racial justice in the 7 core shifts, and how racial justice is an integral part of the 7 core shifts. But today's conversation has been great. We have, I have a better idea of how we can operationalize some of what we are thinking of doing. I mean, we can, I really think that we need to be trying to serve the African-American community now, as they are busy trying to, protest, because their voices have to be heard. And then we need to help them. We need to serve them as their voices are being heard. Yes, Julie.
When you said that, I was wondering, Sailesh, I don't know if this is in place since I'm far from the United States, but maybe one of the things that the local vegan communities or the local climate healers communities can try and do is to serve good vegan food to the protesters, to get out there and, serve food free, of course, but to give people, to nourish people with cruelty-free food and allow them to be, to take their place, which is an active place on the streets now. Just an idea.
Yeah, we're thinking of, for the next protest here, we're thinking of setting up a table and having free burritos.
Great.
For people can come and eat, whenever, whatever they want.
That's wonderful. And I'm going to just take this moment to thank everyone. I'm going to go. Thank you so much. It was wonderful to be part of this small but very fruitful conversation. I certainly learned a lot. Thank you very much, Sailesh. And thank you for making it at a time that I can join in, because with the time difference, I'm usually not able to. It's the middle of the night. So this was perfect timing for me. Thank you. It was great to see and hear you all. Thank you.
Yeah, this is why we try to set it up for 2 sessions, so 9 to 11 and 3 to 5. So this way everyone should be able to find one session that works for them.
Great. Namaste. Thank you. Bye-bye.
We were at the protest yesterday and in the Portland, Oregon area, and the streets were just lined with tables with people giving away free food and water and medical supplies. It was unbelievable. I haven't seen anything like that in my life.
The support services, not just the protesters themselves, but there's a growing support service around the movement that is really inspiring.
Yeah, and then on top of that, there were also had stopped counting, but people just wearing backpacks with medical supplies and signs on their back saying, if you need help, you know, here's everything that I'm carrying, reach out to me. It was just really cool to see everybody coming together and supporting one another in that. And I also have to say there was a moment when it was probably 30 minutes into our march that I don't know if this was planned or not, but at the front of the march, everybody stopped and went silent and put their fists in the air, and it just kind of rippled all the way back through the march. I don't know how many thousands of people were silent, but everybody went dead
So
silent.
quiet.
And it was I had to fight back tears because it was incredibly powerful. It was like really amazing to see everybody come together and just in this solidarity that I haven't seen before.
And it felt, the silence to me represented the commitment to nonviolence,
Yeah.
to really to standing strong in nonviolence together.
That's beautiful. Yeah, this is why I'm convinced that this is not reversible. This is going to continue. So this is the caterpillar turning into the chrysalis phase, you know, on its way to becoming a butterfly. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to the next few years. Jackie, you had something to say?
I'm just really moved because this is like what I've been working on for years, and started with working with education activism and seeing the discrimination there, and then moving on to the discrimination of health and then the animals, and just making all the connections. But it really hit home this time when one of my kids came, and Silas, you mentioned this yesterday, and it really affected me because my son just got a license. And so he's been going out on his own, driving around, and he was about to leave, and he says, "Mom, should I be afraid?" And it was the first time, you know, we prepare them, we have these conversations, but it was the first time in my life that I was like, maybe you don't need to go out today. So having these conversations is so meaningful to me, not just as the work that I do and as a climate healer, but as like a mom. Just thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think Jackie is referring to the conversation I was relating with my granddaughter, who had the same question. So we have 3 minutes, I think, before we, I think we can rejoin the conversation if you want this afternoon at 3 o'clock, from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. It's the same link. Kimaya's dad is here. He wants to clean up my beard and some of my hair. So some grooming work he's going to do. So maybe I'll look different in the evening. Yeah, and you know, she's fine now. You know, she's looking forward to it because I told her that everybody wants to listen to you because you are part of everybody, right? Because she's indigenous, she's black, she's Indian, she's everything.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate the space and the discussion. I hope that it just continues. I was talking to Suzanne yesterday. I said, I hope that these marches never end. At least until we get what we're looking for, I don't think it should ever end.
Yeah. March until we get a transition administration, right? Yes. Any other final thoughts before we close? Thank you. Please feel free to jump in.
I'll just say everything affects everything else. Our actions, our words, every dollar we spend, everything interweaves through all the parts of our society that have systemically been skewed and perpetuated the injustice. And so this is important, and that we, participate in these discussions and in the marches and in the, the protests, and that our actions on everything that we do on the day-to-day also back it up, so that we're not supporting, at the same time we're speaking against it, we're not supporting the things that perpetuate it.
Well, thank you all for joining, and thank you so much for for your presence here.
Thank you again.
Namaste, everyone.
And see you this evening if you can.
Thank you all.